Welcome to the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community Podcast. I'm your host, Tsague. But today I'm not the host because somebody from Kenya have hijacked the podcast. So I'm going to introduce our guest host today, Lorna Mutegi. Lorna is an amazing coach, master trainer, the founder and CEO of Sonorgas. And she has, what I love about Lorna's vision is her vision for Africa. I had the opportunity, I think it was this year, Lorna, was it last year?
It was last year.
Last year, she had a 5-star ribbon cutting for her center. She's just amazing. We love Lorna. I know that many of you guys watching and listening love Lorna as well. So Lorna will be hosting us today because Lorna wants to tee us up for this upcoming summit on May the 27th in Nairobi. I so wish I could be there. Lorna, it's your show. Take it from here.
Thank you so much, Patrice. It just feels so odd, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And so you sit nice and comfortable because you are going to be one of our panelists this evening. And I'm saying evening because it's evening here in Kenya. So for those of us who are used to watching this from any other part of the world, welcome to Kenya. Okay. So hello and good evening to each and every one of you. Here in Nairobi, we say karibuni sana. And so welcome to tonight's live, courtesy of the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community Kenya office. So as you have heard from Patrice, I'm Lorna Mutegi, and I am the CEO and lead coach at Sunegos Africa, which is a training and coaching center that comes to the aid of micro, small, and medium businesses in Kenya and in Africa. And we have one goal in mind, just one. We want to be able to transform your business from ordinary to a successful, profitable, and sustainable kingdom business. And hear this, without you, the business owner, losing your mind. We don't want you to lose your mind. And so I am also very proud to be a licensed center under the Nehemiah Project International Ministries, which means, you know what that means? If you walk through any of our centers here in Nairobi, we have two, actually. We have what we call the Nairobi Center and the Sunergo Center. Because of the partnership we have with Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community as a global organization, it comes with so much strength. So if you're an entrepreneur here in Kenya, and if you walk through our doors, it means that you will receive world-class training and coaching services. And I kid you not, the resources are high level due to the global support that we have from this beautiful partnership. So speaking about losing our minds as business owners and entrepreneurs, my goal tonight is to have you get the best advice that you can get on this side of town, okay? And the advice is around business, especially now that we are operating business in a volatile, ambiguous, complicated, and uncertain time. And when you're running a business, whatever size it is, or for however long you've been running it, you would agree with me that you have come to a point where you just feel like, I don't even know what to do. Things are crazy. Here in Kenya, when you hear someone say, what? And it sounds, when you hear, what? You know that's Kenyanese for, oh my goodness, I'm not sure what to do. I don't know what steps to take. I don't know who I need to speak with. So a lot of us as entrepreneurs have had those moments when things are difficult. And so it's really very important then when you are at that point to be able to understand your environment. And so it's such a I really just want to thank Patrice for allowing us to use this platform, because the time is now for us to be able to understand what our environment is in Nairobi, Kenya, in Kenya overall, and also in Africa. It's important for entrepreneurs right now to really understand the marketplace atmosphere. This is key, because once you do, then you know where to play and how to win. And that's the name of our live discussion today. Where to play and how to win. You want to know where to play and how to win, even when the economy is looking iffy. All right. So in the course of the 1 hour, 15 minutes, I have said that you will get the best possible advice from the wonderful experts that I have in our panel tonight. And so before I introduce them, allow me just to say that this is actually a prelude to the event that Patrice just mentioned. We have an event coming up on Saturday the 27th of May. It is dubbed Biblical Entrepreneurship Kenya Summit 2023. That's right. We have done this many a times. And so this is the 2023 edition where you'll be coming in to watch a group of biblical entrepreneurs. Now, I didn't just say entrepreneurs. I said biblical entrepreneurs. And I'm reiterating this, especially for the guests, the people who are new to this podcast. I know if you've been following us on the EC podcast, you know what we're all about. But for the visitors here, probably this is the first time that you're getting to hear that terminology, a biblical entrepreneur. And so what we will be doing on the 27th is that we will be having 4 key biblical entrepreneurs presenting their business plans to a panel of local and international judges. The objective of the judges is to have them determine which entrepreneur has the most ideal business plan that is realistic, that's achievable, and can be implemented during times such as these. And so now you're thinking, are there entrepreneurs out there who are actually thriving during a time like this when we are trying to just wait and see what's happening? And my answer to you is a big resounding yes. I absolutely say yes. Biblical entrepreneurs around the world are not waiting to see. We are actually in preparation. And that's because we do not subscribe to the natural economy. Ladies and gentlemen, we subscribe to God's economy. And that is the economy that does not allow you to run or supply mediocrity. We don't do mediocrity here as biblical entrepreneurs. And so God's economy really requires us to work so that our businesses give us the freedom to be able to serve. And we serve using the time that we get off our businesses, the resource that our businesses give us, and the talents that are given to us by God. And so if you're an entrepreneur out there, or if you know one who says, I did this by my might, I want you to introduce them to me so that I can tell them that all those talents were actually given to them by God. And so even when the economy is down, even when the environment is looking volatile, it is harsh, what we say here is that we were not given the spirit of fear. Absolutely not. We were given the spirit of power, the spirit of love, and guess what? We have a sound mind. And so that is what you're going to be seeing on the 27th. And so there will be a link that will be shared on our chat here. You want to pick up that link and register for that event. Now, let me get on to introducing our panel of experts here. So, Patrice, please allow me to start off with our guest expert. His name is Mr. R. Mugo Wakaraja. So I say that because, again, it's Kenyanese, so I'm sorry, but for those of you who are like, what did she say? Well, it is Mr. R. Mugo Wakaranja. And he is a financial management expert with a wide experience in financial management. He has trained and worked as an auditor and a financial consultant with a very well-known organization that we all know and love, KPMG. He has also served as the Africa Regional Finance and Procurement Manager with GVEP International. And while he was there, he was overseeing procurement not only in one country, but in several countries. Now, Mr. Mugo Wakaranja is a passionate supporter of small and micro enterprises in the area of financial management, in business planning, internal controls, and financial reporting. Okay, and those are all aspects that you really need to think about as a business owner. And so currently, he serves on the boards of several national and international organizations. But I will tell you something a little bit about Mr. Mugo. He loves farming. with that kind of portfolio, this man loves to go to the shamba, that is to go to his, how do we say shamba in English? To his farm, that's it. And he loves to go and farm. So Mr. Karanja was there earlier today. I'm looking to hear what you have to sell to us, Mr. Karanja, but welcome to our live discussion this evening. And then, of course, it gives me, thank you, welcome. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Frank Kitonga, who is actually our country director here in Kenya. He's a country director of Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community, Kenya. But he is also a certified biblical entrepreneurship trainer and coach. He also is the center director of the Nairobi Center. So he's the one who set the, a really hot, trail for us that we are now following. But let me tell you something about Mr. Frank Kitonga. This man, every time it comes to balancing work, he's very good at that. Family comes first for Mr. Kitonga. So he's married to his dear wife, Grace, and they are blessed with what I like teasing him about, 5 nations. Those are 5 children. So something that you may not know about Mr. Kitonga is that he's actually an elder at the church that he serves at. And he loves ministry and he loves the Lord. And so welcome, Mr. Kitonga. When I look at your profile, you have started off organizations that are currently doing so well. So I know you'll be speaking a little bit into that as we go on tonight. And then, of course, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our very own CSO of the Nehemiah Project International Ministries. He's the co-founder and chief servant officer of several companies, one of them being the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community, which is based out in the US. Now, he started off this organization with his lovely wife, Gina, and Patrice, listen to this, has trained and coached over 15,000 individuals. I'm a coach, yes, but 15,000. I'm like, what? And these individuals are around the world. And apart from that, though, Patrice is also the author of several books and training curriculums, one of them being our flagship programs, Biblical Entrepreneurship. He has an amazing book known as Nothing But a Jar of Oil, The Buck Stops With You. I told you there are amazing resources that you would get if you plugged into our community. And so I am welcoming you into that because we get these resources and we are thankful for them. He's also the owner of this podcast and he also writes amazing e-devotional. He publishes weekly e-devotionals, which go out to about 10,000 people every single week. But let me tell you something that you didn't know about Patrice Tsague. So he's based in the US and you're thinking, so there's an American on the panel. But can I tell you something? Patrice is from Bamileke tribe of Cameroon, all right? Those are his roots. And that particular tribe is actually known for its business and commerce. So he comes from a royal family of Baleng. And so his grandfather, who is Chief Johnny Baleng I, was a renowned third-degree king in Cameroon. And he was one of the wealthiest men in West Africa. Guess what? Doing what? You want to know how he was wealthy? He was making money from and through farming, through trade, and he got and saw an opportunity through problems. He was serving as a translator for the British and the Germans. Talk about innovation and turning problems into an opportunity. And so those are the men that I have on this platform, and I'm so honored that they accepted my invitation. And so, gentlemen, we are here to bless the entrepreneurial community here in Kenya by giving them information that any entrepreneur would really need to get and just grab onto so that they can apply whatever it is that we're sharing with them, because we are not, the season's not easy. It is not easy. Okay, so Welcome, gentlemen, and also for my audience, let's get started. I hope you all have a pen and paper for the listeners who are on the call. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them on the chat from wherever you're watching, and we will be able to answer those questions. All right, so we're here to talk about small, medium entrepreneurs, SMEs. And so every time I'm referring to the entrepreneur, I will refer to them as the SME. And so for the audience out there, just in case you're wondering, okay, what does SME mean? And am I really in that category? Let me just give you a quick rundown, okay? Micro enterprises. That is the entrepreneur who has only 1 to 9 employees. If you are on this call listening to this, we're talking to you. If you run a small enterprise with 10 to 49 employees, then you fall under the small enterprise category. If you have 50 to 250 employees, you fall under the medium-sized enterprise, okay? So those are the men and women we want to talk to. So I'm sure that now brings you and makes you feel comfortable that we are speaking to you. You're the right person for this call. And so, gentlemen, small and medium enterprises play a major role in most economies, and particularly in developing countries. So I want to throw some statistics to you, Patrice, Frank, and Mr. Karanja. So listen to this. So apparently, SMEs account for the majority of businesses worldwide, okay? And it is also said that SMEs are important contributors to job creation and global economic development. In fact, SMEs represent about 90% of businesses and more than 50% of employment worldwide. Wow, I'm just looking at those numbers and I'm like, okay, what should that mean to me? And so when you look at the numbers in Africa, it is said that SMEs provide an estimated 80% of the jobs across the continent. 80% of the jobs in Africa come from SMEs. And when we look at maybe when we come closer home, maybe in Central, East Africa, Southern Africa, and West Africa, we have about 44 million SMEs. 44 million. And so looking at Kenya now, coming home, we also say that SMEs are the lifeblood of this country. We have approximately 7.5 million SMEs in Kenya that are contributing 30% to the GDP economies. So my first question goes out to you, Bwana Frank Kitonga. I'm looking at these statistics, yeah, and I'm thinking, what should these numbers mean to a country that SMEs are contributing 30% to the GDP? What does that mean? What does that even mean? Go for it, Mr. Kitonga.
It's good to use percentages like that because they give you like a weighting where you can weight between this and that. But it's looking at importance. If you say 30% of our GDP is about $110 billion. So you're saying that 35 billion is organized around this. So who does the rest? It's basically government and corporate businesses. Mm-hmm. And they hire more than 50%. So 30% of the GDP takes care of 50%. It's just beginning to put weight on it. What is that number? Over this $110 billion, the Kenyan money that we're talking about is. So when you're making a decision about the direction of a nation, you now cannot ignore $35 billion. Government policy must look at what does it mean? Your creation of jobs. We are in what we call a bottom-up government plan and what we are doing here in Kenya. So what are you really looking at? What can you do to multiply? Because if you grow the SMEs or MSMEs, then you're growing the entire economy in whatever sector. So in terms of just what does this mean, it means this is relevant enough for anyone to listen to us and to say, okay, what are we doing to support, to encourage, to strengthen our economy and the way it's growing? It costs now over 5 million shillings in Kenya. So how much is that? That's $50,000. Currently, you have the numbers person. 5 million shillings is $50,000, isn't it? That's what it costs to create one job here in Kenya, approximately.
Right.
Now, and what are we putting behind the SMEs so that they can create more jobs? Because the highest potential of job creation in Kenya is from SMEs, but it is so expensive to create that job. A number of businesses going down during this recession is too much, which means job will go down and there's a lot of pressure. The inflation, if there's inflation, guess who it hits the most? SMEs, and therefore jobs, and therefore livelihoods. So I'm just saying that the meaning of those numbers is the importance requires urgent response, not only from government, public sector, churches, coaches, anybody who should put NGOs. We must come around these people who create jobs the easiest way in this country and support them, because in doing so, because one last thing I'll just say, what is the value of a job? The multiplier effect in Africa is far more than the US. One job doesn't just support 4 people. In Africa, one job may be supporting 4 families.
Wow.
Because we live with our cousins, we live with our home, we live with my mother's cousin's friend. So what the power of one job changes everything. If we do not do something about ensuring protecting jobs and growing, we are at the very core of not only Africa. That's why one entrepreneur is to be cared for at everything. And unfortunately, Lorna, the level of businesses closing before the second or third year is more than 70%. So what are we saying?
Right. Yeah,
This
right.
is crazy. We are risking $35 billion because 75% of the guys are collapsing every day.
Right, right, right.
Something special.
Absolutely. Wow. So I'm here to represent the SME in my line of questioning. So I'm thinking, okay, so what you're saying is my government should be paying attention to me right now. And so in making sure that, hey, I'm thriving and that my business at least can stay up and running at least in the first 3 years. So Patrice, this is my question then to you. As an entrepreneur, I know you're based out in the US, but I know you have a lot of information about different markets. So if you heard that information, what would you do as an entrepreneur with that information? What would you do with that?
Well, if I heard what Frank just shared, the first thing first I would be encouraged because I know that I'm important.
Right.
Right. Because I know my contribution. So that's the first thing, because of all the statistics you guys have shared, the importance. The second thing I would say do is, okay, if I'm valued, if I'm critical, and we know that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So he wants to destroy me because he doesn't want me to fulfill the potential that Frank, I think another way of saying it in our context, that an entrepreneur feeds a village, right? They feed a village because they have a number of employees, and that makes up a village, and they feed a village. So he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. So I know that. So I'm important, I'm valuable. Second, there's going to be resistance because my success is transformational. My success is epic. My success is momentous. My success is can save a village, and
Look at
does
that.
save a village.
Right.
Then I was then okay. Then there must be resources out there, Lorna, to help me win, right? Because if I'm important, if there's an enemy, then I'm gonna say, okay, what's out there? I don't have to go at this alone.
Right.
So I would then begin to identify whether it's private resources like a coach or other organization, public resources like what government has to offer, uh, personal like friends, family. What resource is available for me? Because if the nation needs me, if the country needs me, if the kingdom needs me, then there must be resources to help me. Because, and by the way, you talked about Frank talked about the importance of entrepreneurs to their families, but let's talk about its importance to the local church, right? It's important to its government, taxes. It's important. My wife and I began our journey. So when we began our journey, Lorna, I broke away from my family. So I literally started from scratch, because oftentimes, the perception of people is that because of my grandfather, my mother, I kind of had, I had a silver spoon. I did grow up spoiled, and I was privileged. However, I started from nothing. I slept in my car. I slept in my office.
Oh, wow.
I used to. I started from nothing. I would get up in my office. In my office, I would get up, go brush my teeth, come back to see my first client. Right, and they would come back and meet. They had no clue that I slept here last night. Right. So that's how I began. So I understand I understand what it means. But as I went through my journey, Lorna, I remember when I filed my taxes, the government told me I was poor. They felt so bad for me in America that they gave me a tax write-off. They gave me money because I was poor, right? I remember my poor wife. I was married. That was my first year of marriage. We filed, and she worked for me. Could you imagine? Because we were working together. So
Right.
poor girl, she married me. She didn't marry me for my money, friend. Remember, for she was in love, right? Love will cause you to make stupid decisions. So, but where am I heading? So
I don't think it's stupid now when you look at what you've been able to achieve, right?
So we get a tax refund because we're poor, right? And I remember the year when we had to start paying taxes, like we would owe the government. And my wife said, "Dang, why are we owing the government?" I said, "Baby, here's the thing. I'd rather owe the government than they pay me tax, then pay me money because I'm poor. This suggests, honey, that we made it."
Paying taxes. Awesome.
I was celebrating. And let me tell you something. From that day forward, Lorna, every year my tax bill just keep going higher and higher. And literally, I had to restructure my tax payment. I had to, my accountant had to ask my accountant, what can I do? Do you work for the government? Because it seems like every year I'm writing big checks to Uncle Sam. Whose side are you on, man? What's going on?
Right.
He said, here's what we're gonna do. He said, why don't we structure how you pay yourself so that they end up owing you, right? And that just means that you're prepaying the government ahead of time. The point I'm making is that if I look at how much I pay the government, I'm telling you, I'm needed. I'm necessary. So the point I'm making is because I'm necessary, and during COVID, the government helped people like me because they said, Patrice, you've been paying to the Treasury. We want you to make it because if you don't make it, right, so goes our income.
Right.
So that's what I'm thinking, Lorna. I'm
There you
thinking,
go.
okay, I'm valuable, I'm necessary. I'm thinking there's going to be obstacles, because wherever there's opportunity, wherever there's potential, there's always some obstacles. There must then be help. Who's out there to help me? Let me get a coach. Let me get a partner organization. Let me even, who can I? Because if I'm needed, then there's help for me. I don't have to do
I
nothing.
love it. I love what you're saying there, Patrice. And so what a strong mindset changer, that's helping us really just change the paradigm shift for us here in Kenya, because as an entrepreneur, I'm thinking, oh, okay, so with that, it means I'm important. And so how about I stick the journey, stick it out and look for resource that is helpful to me. But here's the thing then, Patrice. And so, we want to really just break down the environment, where to play. So this is where we're playing. So this is what we're on, ladies and gentlemen. We're trying to really just break down what our environment looks like. So this is the thing. So we have these statistics where obviously the baker, I'm sure they see themselves as ordinary entrepreneurs. The baker, the couples who have a supermarket, those are the SMEs that we're talking about. You have an insurance company that you're just starting out. You have a school. So we're saying that you are important. And so I'm an important statistic to the government. I need to stick it out. I just need to go and look at and find who can I and where can I plug in. But here's the thing. The environment is telling me something really different. And this is where I want to just bring Wakaranja into the conversation, Mugo Wakaranja. The environment is telling us something different. It's so interesting, Bwana Mugo, that on the 27th, on the Saturday, we have actually themed that event, Africa is Thriving. And so when you look at it as an entrepreneur, you want to ask yourself, are we really thriving? Because for me, I'm just looking at my clients purchasing power has come down. There is a lack of dollars in our system here locally, which tells you something about the economy currently. We're right now praying for our severe droughts to please leave us. Oh, dear Lord, give us rain. And then, Bwana Karanja, high inflation, currency depreciation, a dollar shortage, and then, such tight monetary policies that are just not allowing, SMEs to even tap into financing. So with all that, I'm looking and I'm wondering, okay, so the other day, our President Ruto, I think, he was in China. He then went into Germany. I believe, I don't know if did he go to the US? I don't know, Patrice, do you know whether our president came to the US? But I know there's conversation with the US, because also only recently, Meg Whitman wrote an amazing article about why Africa and why Kenya. And I'm telling you, I have never seen an article written out so well. Meg Whitman is honestly a true researcher, because she gave us some very strong, reasons as to why Kenya is thriving. Some of the reasons, Bwana Mugo, and I'm just going to call you in to join in the conversation, is she's saying that Kenya is the most stable democracy in East Africa. It is the leading regional finance hub. It is the leading destination for foreign direct investment and venture capital. So maybe that's why our good president is out there. I don't know. You're going to tell us. And apparently, Kenya generates over 90% of its energy from renewable resources. That and many more. Mr. Mugo Akaranja, please just explain this. Truly, are we really thriving as a continent and as a country? And if that's the case, why doesn't it feel like that for me as an SME?
Thank you, Lorna, and let me just say thank you to Patrice for some of what you said, and I will write on that.
Yeah,
a lot of global economies have grown starting as an SME. Most of the large international firms started off as SMEs. Whether it's in Europe, whether it's in America, even here in Africa. And that is the starting place. SMEs are the birthplace of large enterprise. And I think we need to begin to see that as drivers of as SME entrepreneurs. Recognize, even if it's things like Facebook and YouTube and all those, we all know they started off in a garage somewhere in somebody's backyard. We know that. We're told that all the time. Why do we lose sight of that just because Facebook is so big? Just because McDonald's didn't grow there overnight. It started small. We've seen the Nakumats and the House of Manji start off in somebody's kitchen. So let's get over the narrative that SMEs are less than the large organizations. That said, we in Africa have a hard time seeing opportunities in our midst. Maybe we hear so much negative talk. The media covers so much of what is not right that we don't see what others from outside are seeing of us. And so right now, the rest of Africa is scrambling for Africa. It is scrambling for Africa. And yes, by the way, the US was involved in that discussion. As you know, the first lady of the US was here hardly 2 months ago. And when she travels, she doesn't travel alone.
No.
The rest of the entourage are the businessmen and the guys who are doing the backdoor negotiations.
Right.
But why is that? Why is the rest of the world scrambling for Africa? Because the fundamentals for investors, the fundamentals that investors look for investments are there. The microeconomics show huge growth opportunities in Africa. We have a young population. We have a huge rural-urban migration. We have those things that create quote-unquote problems. And what is the work of an entrepreneur? The mindset
Solving.
Of an entrepreneur is to solve
problems. That's right.
When it rains, you don't go and hide yourself in the house. You invent an umbrella. You create a raincoat. You do something to address you can't change the weather, but that is an opportunity for you. And that's what we have in Africa. All this rural-urban migration, this young population needs to be fed. When people move from rural to urban areas, they move from where they were growing and eating their own food to a place where they must rely on somebody else growing and supplying food. And so farming is a growing industry, huge in what was an agricultural nation. So we have that as an opportunity. The whole question of value add. So there are needs here. Yet at the same time, Africa has the resources that the rest of the world needs. Africa is very wealthy in resources, whether it is human resources, natural resources, you name it. They're coming here, and that's why we were colonized in the first place. Colonialism did not happen for people to come and play golf. It happened for them to come and draw resources from Africa. So let's remember that, guys. And those resources are still here.
Bwanamugo, what you're saying is getting my blood a bit hot, yeah? And so I'm wondering then, what should I do as an entrepreneur here in Africa? How do I then shift and begin to take advantage of the resource that is here? Is it a mind shift that we need? What do we need? Because, it's always idea, serikali's idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is need for a major rethink and a mind shift, so that we see, like we say, we see the problems as opportunities. And we all saw that. We saw COVID come in, and what happened? Many of us stayed home and so on. And yet at the same time, there were COVID billionaires that were born in the COVID period. People made money, and huge amounts of money during COVID. And that's because if you constantly look, we're used to hearing people say in Kenya, the problem is. I think entrepreneurs should be saying, okay, and what is the solution? If everybody is giving me their problem, I must be saying, and what is the solution? Right. And if I can start being solution-oriented, an entrepreneurship is a skill you develop. It's not going to happen. Not everybody who fails to do A, B, C, D will be an entrepreneur. You have to develop the skills of entrepreneurship, how to look at a situation and come up with a solution that is marketable, that is scalable, that other people will take as a solution. So, and that is where I think what you're doing is so great, that you're training entrepreneurs to be able to see this and to be able to develop themselves accordingly.
Mr. Mugo, you hit the nail on the head right there. And I just want to bring this conversation now to Mr. Kitonga. You know, Bwana Kitonga, in our Biblical Entrepreneurship Program, there is a section that is dedicated to training entrepreneurs to see problems and say, okay, there's a problem here, and so how do I turn this into an opportunity? We get them to kind of see, we train them on that skill, the skill to be able to see a silver lining amidst the chaos, amidst the confusion and disruption. And so, Frank, what would you recommend? What do you think we should do as Kenyan entrepreneurs? What's one or two things that you can just share with our SMEs? How do we start doing that? And just after you, Patrice, I'm going to come back to you with the same question, because you run a global organization. And so imagine from local to global, imagine the kind of problems now. It's been, if you have one problem with one organization, what about running a global organization? The problems are triple, quadruple. But Frank, how do we get SMEs to start looking and seeing, okay, so this is what I need to do amidst the problems that we are currently in?
Yeah, well, fantastic. First of all, I just appreciate what Patrice's contribution is, and Mugo, fantastic. Just a great example, about the hope that we have. Come to the experts about your problem. Let me start. Who is our #1 expert on famines? It's amazing. Do you know the Bible probably has more than 13 major famines? Each of these famines had a solution. Abraham was in a famine. Isaac was in a famine. Jacob was in a famine. Joseph was in a famine. Ruth was in a famine. How many of these famines are there? Elijah was in a famine. David was in a famine. Each of these have one solution constantly. Who is the solution? God is the solution. This recession, these difficulties are not the first famines that have happened to God. There is hope in Him to find the silver lining in this situation. If somebody has been through all these famines and is given us solutions, and they are recorded in scripture, I can take my Bible and I can read it, I can understand it, I can decode from it. I already have answers in this thing. And I want to say, hey, there is a path and there is a door somewhere. You know, if we are $110 billion a business, GDP, and it drops, say we're only growing by 5%, so we are kind of staying, but say it drops by 10%, it's going to be 90 billion. Okay, it's dropped, it's serious, the industries are going to be affected. There is still 90 billion for which God can give me wisdom and grace to engage. Business going on. People are buying houses, cars are being sold, food is being sold, children are going to school. There is still a functioning economy. So I have a God who knows how to fix the famine. I have a 90 billion opportunity still sitting out there. The one thing you got to do is you got to say, there is a path of hope somewhere. If you decide to look at the 10 billion that's getting lost, then okay, you look at that. But I'd like to see the opportunities in the 90 billion that is still being traded.
Wow.
And I have the best partner possible to go into
Amen.
this.
Amen. I love it.
That's my first place. We've got to go into this thing with fire. Let me pause there. I wanted to say some more, but my view has been, if you change, if you put the right hat on, you can scale. And as he said, Mugo said, they're legitimate COVID billionaires. In the middle of that, God is still working, man. We will still. And Patrice, one of Patrice's guests in 2021, wrote a book called Grace of a Grind. That's a book to take on now and say, okay, I want to know, how does God help me to go? Because it doesn't have to be hard work. Through the leadings of the Spirit, I just need to know what to do when, and I will arrive. My family will survive this. My business will survive this. We will make it through this just fine. How do you think the wealth transfer will happen? It will only happen in a recession. So this is the opportunity for this wealth transfer to happen. But you've got to feed yourself with the right stuff. Biblical entrepreneurship offers that opportunity for you. You get to experience.
I love it. Yeah, go for it.
Best practices. You got to experience biblical principles. You got to experience who are you, what's your calling, what's your identity. You got to experience how to change the culture of your organization, to think right. How do you review your core values? That's what biblical entrepreneurship does. When you come at business like that, that's a different image. And that's something, this economy, we're still not down yet. We are at the precipice of greatness. This is not the time to do.
You know, Frank, I feel like just standing up and just saying, woo, yes, because I am a biblical entrepreneur and I praise God every single day that I came across this program, and I did not waste time. I took it because I can honestly say that if it was not for BE, our family business, which is a school, one of the leading schools in Nairobi, would not have been able to make it through COVID. I kid you not. I kid you not. So I completely concur with you. But you know what? On this call, we have, so Patrice, I'm just going to change my question just a little bit. So I'm not going to ask you about what it takes then to run a global company. I'm just going to ask you, so you had God dropped off this idea on you and he said, son, biblical entrepreneurship to the world, to the world. Did you ever think that we would be speaking today and saying that Africa is thriving through biblical entrepreneurship? Because it's not just about any odd entrepreneurship. It's not secular, you know? It sounds like there's something else that Frank is talking about that we need to plug into. Where did this come from, and why is biblical entrepreneurship the solution for Kenya today?
Amen. Well, before I answer, I want to welcome Mutani, Joan. Good to see you guys. Betty, a number of folks watching with us. Kolanza, thank you. Good to be with you guys here. And by the way, my good friend, the author of Grind Over Grace, will be with us in the next couple of next week or the following week on the podcast here. And she's also going to be with us at a forum coming up around in the next couple of months. And she'll be a speaker this year for Nehemiah Week. So Frank, good shout out there for our good friend Shay Bynes. A powerful book. I would highly recommend it. She has a new edition now. So let me answer your question, Lorna. So you know, it's interesting as you asked the question, as a reflecting upon your question, and I was reminded that the year I began my journey into entrepreneurship, Cameroon was burning. It was 1990. I had graduated from college. No, from high school, because I'm a college dropout. I had graduated from high school. I was my first semester in college. It was yesterday. Those of you who are out there, if you, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. Anybody in the U.S., Joan, are there, do Rick's Bank exist anymore? So Rick's Bank, Lorna, was the bank that I used to go every month to get money that my mother would send me. And so Victor put a link out there for Grace Over Grind. So Shay, you're gonna have to pay us some commission now. We're selling your books here. So my mother, Cameron, was under arrest. If you guys remember the 90s, in the 90s, I don't know about Kenya, but in French Africa, there was an uprising, right? The people was demanding democracy. So I'm a young man. I'm 18 years old, 19 years old, and I call my mother, and I said, "Mom, I'm not sure if things will recover." My mother had been attacked by the opposition because she was standing against regime change, and she used all her resources, everything, to try to stop the regime change. And unfortunately, or fortunately, at that time, America was for regime change, but my mother was against it. And so she had to be rescued by the military. Now, Lauren, I want you to imagine a 19-year-old young man in America. His money just dried up. His mother is not safe. My siblings had to flee the country. I didn't know the Lord. I was a humanist. But what I knew then, though, was that I've always wanted to do business. And I knew, just like my mother, just like my grandfather, no matter where I'm in the world, entrepreneurship is the key. So I knew I couldn't help Africa, but I could do something here in America. And Lorna, I began my journey. Now, but when I did, I in my heart of hearts, I had Africa in mind. And I remember something said to me, and I believe it was God, because I didn't know him, but I know he knew me. Something said, "Patrice, serve America, and it will get you to Africa." Now I'm talking to somebody. You may not be right now in the place where your heart is. Right? If you listen to this podcast, you're watching it, you may not be where your heart is, meaning that wherever you are, it could be geographical location, it could be circumstantial, wherever you are, your heart is not there. But hear me out. Serve where you are. Serve where you are, and I guarantee you it will lead you where your heart is. Where you are. And so, Lorna, I began to serve. I started my own business. I built a nonprofit. I was one of the youngest guys in Washington, D.C., leading a youth entrepreneur. I was the youngest, leading a youth entrepreneurship organization. We were written in the Washington Post. We were on the news. Fortune magazine even wrote a quote that I stated. We began to serve where we were. But my heart was breaking for my country. Fast forward, my mother would recover, Lorna. She would come to America, I think 5 years later. At this time, I'm born again. At this time, the Lord my mother came, Biblical Entrepreneurship, this was 90. Biblical Entrepreneurship was born in 95, because I got saved in 94. 95, God gives a vision for biblical. He says, use entrepreneurship as a tool to empower the body of Christ and seek and save that which is lost. Right? Both a discipleship and the Great Commission. And so we begin. My mother would come back. She would bounce back by the grace of God. And then I literally remember my mother sat in my office, and my mother began to cry. Because, Lorna, I was the black sheep. I was not supposed to be sheep. I was the kid who played all the time, went to clubs, goofed off, right? I was the joker. Mother cried. And my mother said to me, son, I want to invite you back home. My mother and my mother invited my wife and I, all expense paid, back to Cameroon. Do you remember what my heart was when I began my journey?
I do. Yep.
And then she brought me with and then it was while in Cameroon in 1998. This is 8 years later. 8 years later. Though it tarries, wait for it. It should surely come. So my mother invited me to Cameroon. Now, here's the thing. So now I'm a believer. So I'm going to Africa. But I don't know Africa anymore. I've gotten so consumed by serving America that I even forgot the vision and the burden. So I'm nervous. So I said, babe, I don't know Christians in Africa. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because at this point, I feel like Moses being called back by Pharaoh to say, come back home. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, wait, come back home, but I'm no longer an Egyptian. I'm like, Lord, help. You know, I've now identified. But hold on, Lorna, I know I'm taking time. Help me out. So my mother. So I go to Captain. So I begin to say, I need a church. Because I'm a Hebrew now. I'm no longer an Egyptian. Because I'm saved. So we're looking for a church. And then Gina and I noticed that whenever we walked to our office, there was an African church called Bethel. If you are a Bethel member, you're watching here, just know that God used you. It's called Bethel. And there were flags of Africa.
Oh my
That
Lord.
church.
Oh my God.
So we go to that church. I walk in. I say, my name is Tsague. I'm from Cameroon. My mother has invited me back, but I don't know any Christians in Cameroon. Can you help me? Could you imagine walking to a church? I'm like, I noticed you got African flags. You must know somebody in Cameroon. Can you help me? Watch this. They said, we have a church plant in Cameroon. Oh, glory to God forevermore. Now, come on. They said, we have a church in Cameroon. They said, as a matter of fact, the pastor is here.
Oh, my Lord.
So they said, could you come back tonight for our revival service so we can introduce you to the pastor from By the way, he wasn't a Cameroonian. He was from Liberia, but he was planning a church in Cameroon. So I come back, meet with him. His name was Pastor Wesley. So I meet Pastor Wesley. I bring my tapes and my teachings. I said, Pastor, here's what I do. I'm from Cameroon. My mother has invited me back. I need a church home when I go there to worship because I don't want to backslide, Lorna. I worked up. I'm like, I don't want to go back to Pharaoh's house, right, and get comfortable, right? I'm like, Lord, help! I need Jesus. Oh, so he said. So of course he knew who my mother was. So he said, all right, we'll take care of you. So I lose his contact. But I told him when I'd be in Cameroon. When I get to Cameroon, that same day, my mother's phone rings. And they said, Patrice, somebody wants to talk to you. It was that pastor.
It was that pastor. Oh my goodness.
He said, welcome. He said, welcome to your country. He said, would you preach for me? I was teaching business people. I've never been on the pulpit. I was still in Bible school, Lorna. So So I said, Pastor, okay, sure. So I go back and say, Lord, what should I teach? He said, what have you been studying? We've been fasting and studying the book of Nehemiah. And my message on that trip was rebuilding the walls of our community. Start where you are. And that was, so Nehemiah was born in Africa. So how do I feel? I could die today and go to heaven. I'll be a happy camper. I'm back where my heart is. That's how I feel.
Amen.
That's how I feel.
Oh my gosh, Patrice.
That's how I feel.
And that's when we say, and the rest was history.
The rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history, because that is a story of God using an ordinary man. Ordinary, I tell you guys, ordinary. And that is what we teach here, when we are doing the biblical entrepreneurship program. A man and a woman, just like you, wherever you are listening to this conversation, God can use you and make a difference in your community, in your country, in your nation. And so you are very much needed if you have a calling towards business. I mean, Patrice, that is such powerful testimony. You should see the responses we are getting right now. So did I tell you about Kenyanese when someone says, what? So someone just dropped that and they said, what? What a testimony. Amazing story, Patrice. This is fantastic. This is really, really good. Awesome. Okay, so Moses is telling me I may have some background noises. Is that the case with the tech team? Let me know, because we want to wrap this up. We have another 20 minutes. There is a reason I set this up for 1 hour, 20 minutes. Okay, I knew that there would be great nuggets, hot nuggets, I did say, we're going to get here. Patrice, thank you so much for sharing that story. Thank you so much. It's not just a story. It is, my gosh, it is your journey, and it has borne, an amazing global company where we have all plugged into that vision and we are pushing. Frank and myself are behind you 100% on that. I want to change the conversation a little bit now and speak into finances. Okay, and so Bwana Karanja, if you can, after hearing that story, I know you didn't know that bit about Mr. Tsague, but there you go. When it comes to financing a business, there's this discussion that we have around cash flow. We say cash is king, huh? And so right about now, I know we have entrepreneurs who are thinking, okay, I mean, if you do your research, a lot of business owners are being told, you know what, you want to finance your business, and you'll see that one of the key things that are that startups are looking for is money, financing. And I'm just wondering, is this a good time for us to start thinking about financing our businesses during this current economic environment? Is it a good idea? So that we can kind of boost our cash flow? Do you think that's a good idea? If there's anyone here who's thinking about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lorna. And thank you phenomenally, Patrice. I think that's it's wonderful testimony, because the Lord does ask us, what have I given you? What you have in your hand, use that. And I will allow me to use what you have. I think a lot of times when people are talking about finance, I usually ask them, what are you looking for? They say, oh, capital. To do what?
Yeah.
For. And I think there are two different types of mindset. Is all capital necessarily financial capital? Or do we all have social capital that we tend not to use in business? We tend to think my social capital, whether it is my church community, or it is my family community, or it is whatever other community I may have, is for something else. It is not for business. Yet, I think the creation mandate is very clear. And that God wants us to go back to the creation mandate. He said, subdue the earth, fulfill it, go out there and do. I've given you all of this. And we've done the Great Commission first. But he said, do the creation mandate first, do the Great Command next, i.e., love thy neighbor, and I will start the Great Commission. I feel very sorry about the background noise. I hope it's not too loud.
We can get through it, no problem.
The marketplace is the place to live out our faith and practice. If we believe God, then the marketplace is the place to live out our faith and our practice. And God will provide the capital, just like he did for Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a cupbearer. He went to the king and said, look, I'm sad, blah, blah, blah. We all know the story of Nehemiah. But the Lord provided that capital. The king wrote letters, go through the forest, pick up the trees, pick up what you need. The king sent him with an army. God will provide the finances. Now people say, but how do I get my cash flow in? I think all businessmen need a good education. You need good advice. Sit down. If you have a business, we call it business plan, but any business idea, get someone to draw it out for you. Draw out your cash flow. What are you expecting to spend? What do you expect in return? We tend to be overly optimistic about unrealistic about our incomes, and we're very optimistic about income, and we underprovide expenses. But get an objective review. What is the problem you're solving? What will it generate? And we have seen this. People are willing to pay whatever they value your business at. I often tell people it is the buyer who sets the price of a commodity, not the seller. I value whatever you're bringing me based on where I'm coming from and based on my need. And based on my need, whether it is it's a glass of water or it is a fruit cake, I will value it different from the next guy. So allow me to pay what it's worth. So I think the first thing with cash flow is figure out what we're spending, that we can figure out. And then what are we expecting to get? Get good advice. We tend to, as entrepreneurs, think my business is too small for me to look for advice. Get a good education. Read up on it. Read. Get advice. Get hold of a mentor in that same area. There are many Christian mentors around willing to help small businesses start. Listen to them. Learn from them. And you will learn a lot. And then finally, remember this. In any business, cash is king, in that profit must always flow through cash at some time or other. Your profit will need to be turned into cash at some point. When you sell on credit and you don't get paid, if the cash doesn't come in, that ain't no profit. You're going to end up with losses, expenses that we call non-performing debt, etc. But there is business credit. Once you use your social capital, there are many suppliers who will give you a business credit, whether it is like we do with the mamambogas in the farming sector. People will come to a farm and collect vegetable in the morning, take it to the market and sell during the day and pay the farmer in the afternoon. And once you have developed a social capital that allows you to be trusted even for one day, you have credit, and that credit can convert into cash. We need as Christians to stop giving away things and saying, I'm selling on credit to my friends and they'll pay me at the end of the month. It doesn't happen, and we know it doesn't happen. So let's wake up to that reality. So small businesses should not be dishing out credit and selling things on credit unless they have received things on credit and they know that the payment will come before that credit, before their supplier credit is due. And again, with your social capital or your other financial capital, get a credit card. A lot of Christians do not use credit cards in Kenya. I don't know why, but credit cards are very popular in the US and in other economies. But in this country, yes, we have a debit card and we have our M-Pesa, but we don't have a credit card where a bank is giving me up to 45 days of free credit if I will honor it. So there are ways of ensuring that you do get business credit that allows for daily, weekly, monthly. But above all, don't go getting loans to start a business that is uncertain. Don't get a fixed term loan to start your business. I think I've personally helped a gentleman selling fruit and maize on the side of the road.
Right.
To show him from his cash flows and his records just how much money is going through his hands in a week and in a month. He was shocked, and he was keeping it all at home. And I got him to open a bank account, and within 5 months, the bank was willing to lend him money on the strength of the turnover of his business, which he was now being recorded by the bank, and previously was not. So it's there, it's available to us, but we need to be wise, we need to be educated. There will come a time for you to borrow. You may start off using your savings, you may start off borrowing from family, and I would borrow from family what I call equity. In other words, let them buy into the business, let them lend you money that they're not expecting back tomorrow. Agree, even if it means they will get a share of the profits when the profits begin to roll in. Let that be the case. But don't borrow from a bank up early, and before you start making any profits, you're required to repay the loan and pay interest. So, but once your business is on track, believe you me, financiers will come to you. Financiers come to successful businesses. Once you can show a record of a successful business, financiers, that's what they're there doing. Banks are there to give money to entrepreneurs. They're waiting for you, but you have to develop the record that you are a successful entrepreneur. So I think it's there. But get education.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing in the Nehemiah project is in line with that. Educate people in the right way, and they'll get there. Thanks.
I love it. You know, just that question around finance, you have started us off, Bwana Mugo, by getting to us to see that, oh my gosh, the blueprint is actually in scripture. It is in scripture, you know? And so I love what you've talked about, the creation mandate, and the fact that we were given the authority and the ability to control and subdue the earth. And so there is resource for us to look and tap into even before we can go and borrow. And so social capital, stop selling your products and services on credit, people. And there are ways, link yourself to men and women who are perhaps even running the same business that you want to start off. Go and speak to them as your mentors and see what they have to tell you. So solid advice there. And so just picking up from that, Mr. Mugo, if you could just mute on your end. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So picking on from that, and now we are finishing. We are on our last minutes now, where we are saying, Bwana Frank, that we can start thinking about financing our businesses once they are, you know, they've shown that they are successful, they are profitable, and you have been able to plug into the lending arm of Nehemiah through JICN, the Global Kingdom Investors Network, where you are connecting biblical entrepreneurs to investors, to kingdom investors, so that they can take their business to the next level. Do you want to speak just very quickly? Can I just give you 2 minutes around JICN? How are you doing that? How can I access that if I'm an established business here in Kenya?
Excellent. So we've been able to lend through JICN and I'll explain what chicken is shortly, over right now, right at the heart of COVID, $167,000 so far. So far, we have 2 entrepreneurs who have gotten it. In fact, we are looking for more. And I wish Patrice talks something little today about what we're talking revenue based. So I'm preempting Patrice's speech at the close. But so Chicken is Global Kingdom Investment Network, which is run by the Nehemiah Project. And it's like a crowd-funded solution where kingdom entrepreneurs, biblical entrepreneurs who want to invest in other biblical entrepreneurs can put their money together and they can send it. So it's very affordable. In fact, it's far more affordable than what we get here in the bank. And it's you're able to negotiate your payments and stuff like that. And you know where the money is coming from. So that's the other thing. You can get money, but this is another brother on the other side saying, hey, this is kingdom resources going to do kingdom work. And all I'm asking is a better return than what I will be getting, because you probably get a better return in Africa because of the risk profile than you would for the same investment in the US. And I think that if we continue to show resilience and that we can be trusted, we are looking at much more funding to continue to come through this arm. And so this has been a special place to go and to invite more and more people to go out and look for this investment. I wanted to throw a very quick issue here about you who's looking for this opportunity in GKEN, and GKEN stands for Global Kingdom Investment Network. One of the simplest things you want to do is just become a biblical entrepreneur, go through the process. And many of the guys listening to us are biblical entrepreneurs. You need to take advantage of this. Through that process, you're able to get a coach, you get a proper assessment for your business plan, you get feedback on your financial model. And sometimes there is a case we had where one of our clients applied, but we get them feedback. We said, your problem is not capital. Your problem is your price that you are charging. And you know what? They went and increased price and cash flow is being fixed. And I really like what, and I'll call you Sam Mugo, said. And he said it well. He said, it is the seller who knows the value of the product. The market will respond, but it is you who knows. And so they didn't end up getting the GKEN loan, but the advice they got through the process solved their problem. You understand? So this GKEN is fantastic. I just want to say, what is your risk profile? If you will put a thumb somewhere and say, this is my business, and you're checking, what is my risk profile? Your risk profile has a lot of things going into it, and you probably need to do a quick check for yourself. Where does my risk come from? It has many. Your nationality, your family, culture, experiences, knowledge, how well do you know your company? But very important, your values, your purpose. That helps you to just check your risk profile. Before you even go for it, understand your own SWOT and understand where exactly is my issue. Am I a gross margin based? Is that where my problem is? Is my problem top line? Most times our problem is control of costs. Just control your costs. Become vigilant about where you're putting your money. Because guess what? We have much less control on your sales than you have on your costs. And it's interesting. If you can't fix the top line, you can fix your costing, because you have that control. And you probably need to tighten your belt a little bit. And those are the things we've got to do in this famine, because sometimes we talk about the supernatural and then we throw away the best practice.
Right. Yes.
God is going to come and save you when you have broken the rules. So, what are the rules? Play the rules and wait for the supernatural. That's why it's one of the things you want to read is latest Patrice's book, Nothing But a Jar of Oil. If there's a book you must get, because it takes you through 7 steps, and one of them is how do you get to the miraculous? But you first got to fix some things. And so that will really, really help you who is looking for help. Back to you, Lorna.
Oh my gosh, you guys, the time, it escapes me. It's running away from me, and it's such good content. But honestly, we do have to just bring this to a close. But before I do so, I just want to thank all the wonderful men and women who are on this call. The energy, the response that we are getting from the audience tonight is amazing. I just want to say a big thank you to Betty Kimani. Thank you for being here, Betty. Thank you, Joanne. Not Joanne, Joan. Joan Thaxter is saying, Patrice, you know what she's saying? Thank God she tuned in today. This is exactly what she needed to hear. Helen Suji, I know you, Helen Suji. Thank you for coming through. This is one of Mr. Kitonga's clients from the Sustainable Church Initiative. We are also working with churches to get them to be sustainable. Pamela Majani, you actually confirmed right from social media. I remember seeing your name. It is so glad that you're here. Irene, and of course, the wonderful gentlemen also who are on the call. We had Kalonzo Musioka. Thank you guys. It's really wonderful to have you here. Patrice, before I give this mic back to you, and thank you so much for giving us the time to do this for Kenya, I must say that there is only one other place that you need to be following this this conversation, and that is on the 27th of May, Saturday, the 27th of May, we have the Biblical Entrepreneurship Kenya Summit event. And if you do not trust what we are saying, I am telling you, on that day, we have the evidence. You are going to watch actual biblical entrepreneurs showcasing their business plans in 10 minutes. Now, how do you do that in 10 minutes? Well, you need to come over and get to see that. You want to see how they have used their wisdom from all the training and coaching that Frank and myself have been doing for these entrepreneurs. It's going to be awesome. So if I could just have the tech team just share on the screen, I want you to see the flyer so that when you see this on your socials, you know that you know what this invitation is for. So if tech team could do that, it is on Saturday, the 27th. There you go. And we are saying Africa is thriving. You have heard about all the resource we have. So what are you doing as an entrepreneur? Are you tapping into this resource? Do not wait for other people to come and tap it in for you. You can do it because you are a biblical entrepreneur. We have so many dates and available slots for entrepreneurs who are looking to, run their businesses and take their businesses to the next level. We have biblical entrepreneurship programs open through the Nairobi Center and the Sunergo Center. So all you have to do is just reach out to us. And I promise you, we will not serve mediocrity. We will make sure we get back to you. But you want to click on the link, register for the event. And when you do that, we will get back to you either way. But we want to see you at the event on Saturday. Bwana R. Mugo Akaraja, Mr. Frank Kitonga, Patrice Tsague, you guys are the best. I am so happy you have made this live so successful. I thank God for your wisdom and your advice. I have taken out so much for myself, also as an entrepreneur, as a trainer and coach. I thank God for each one of you. Patrice, I want to give the last few minutes.
Wow. Let's give a hand clap for Lorna. My Lord, that was amazing. You know what? How many of us agree that Lorna should be my co-host going forward? If you agree with that, put it in the chat. Lorna, for co-host. That Lorna should be joining me on this so that she can represent Africa. Lorna, you did such a good job. Oh my Lord, this was amazing. I want to be there on the 27th. This is going to be incredible. Guys, here's why the 27th is so important. So Lorna, yesterday I was doing a business plan competition with a young biblical entrepreneur with 9th graders, 14 and 15-year-olds, right? And it was amazing. It was amazing, right? And so I was like, wow. And by the way, YB is coming to Kenya, right? YB is coming to Kenya. So Frank, this is your 3rd or 4th summit?
This is going to be the 5th one.
The 5th summit. You guys should put that there. The 5th annual. This is the 5th annual Biblical Entrepreneurship Summit, right? This is the 5th annual. Wow. But here's why you should come this year. This year is unique because what's unique about this year is Timothy is going against Paul. Right? So this is what's unique about this year is the Battle of the Titans, right? So it is. So we're going to see, is it going to be one of, because Frank is the winningest coach. He's won more. This guy's so rude. He wins every year, even beats me. I mean, so of course I'm cheering for Lorna because since Frank has beat me, I want Lorna to beat Frank so that he can get a little taste of his own medicine. So,
Lorna, it's not a good sign for Patrice to champion for you. Whenever he champions for someone, I have a good day.
so that you should come because this is the first time. This is history. Who will win the 2023 National Kenya competition? Will Lorna take it from her mentor, or will he remain the reigning champion? Then the next question will be, who will represent Kenya and will at the international competition? Because once they fight next week, after that they're going to get together and come fight us over here, right? So then will Kenya as the world champion for 4 years in a row? I know some people, Frank and Lorna, who do not want it to happen. Right? Will Kenya be the remaining champion, or finally, Kenya give way for somebody else? We'll see. But guys, join them next week. This is going to be amazing. Guys, I am so proud of all of you guys. Somebody said Frank is the winner. Wow, look at that. That is awesome. So Lorna, listen, somebody said Lorna for co-host. There it is. I agree with you, Colin. So Lorna, you have an invitation, my dear. You have an invitation. You are amazing. I'll tell you. You have an invitation. Guys, what a great... Listen, if you want to know more about the Nairobi Center, and you say, look, I just love this podcast today. I want to learn more. There is a website. There it is. There's a website. Team, put a website out there. I believe is Nehemiah Project Kenya.ke. Is that how you said, Frank? Did I say it right? Nehemiah Kenya.ke. You can learn more. If you don't know about the Synagogue Center, then go to Lorna. What's the Synagogue website? Tell us real quick.
So it is sunergosafrica.com, www.sunergosafrica.com.
Put it in there, guys. Go there and so that you can learn more about both the Synergos, and if you know about the Nehemiah entrepreneurship community, the international, you can go to NehemiahEcommunity.com. So good information. But listen, if you enjoy this podcast, do us a favor. I want you to share it. All right. Friends share what they love. And this was more than a podcast. This was Lorna. That's the one to join me here. If you believe that David said Lorna for co-host. Gladys said Lorna for Lorna. I mean, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Damaris Lorna for co-host. Everybody wants Lorna, right? And then if you want to share this podcast, share in your social media feed, share in your LinkedIn, share in your Facebook. I know that people. Jones says Lorna for co-host. If Jones says, then you got to do it, right? If you share with others, because I know people in the diaspora. Other Africans who believe that Africa is not thriving. Share this with them so they can learn different. Share this with non-Africans so they can see what's going on in Africa. Because guess what? We're going to be organizing sometimes in 2024, God willing, a trip to Africa and to Kenya. Actually, we may even do it this year, actually, maybe November. I think, Frank, you gave us a date. We're going to Kenya in November. We're going to give the dates once it's all settled. And to do a YBE summit, right? And we're going to invite you to come along with us. So share this podcast where Lorna and Frank will be hosting us. You're not only going to help to train young entrepreneurs, but you're also going to get a chance to see some of the businesses. And by the way, stick around for a couple of days because they may just do a safari for you, okay? With that said, I do want to pray for you as we wrap up. Guys, Lorna, thank you so much. This was amazing. Frank, you rock. And Mr. This is the smartest man I know. I mean, he was sharing, he was dropping some knowledge, man. I was like, wow, I'm going to listen to this over and over again. I mean, this was good stuff. It was just good. So, Lorna, you did not disappoint. See, not only would you be a co-host, but you're going to help bring some guests around here. This was good stuff. This was international quality, This is, as they say in the South, he was high cotton. This was good stuff. I love it. Well, let me pray for you. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to steward those talents that are under your care, to steward them in such a way that one day you'll hear those wonderful words. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Guess what? He'll not make you over much. God bless you. Follow us on all the socials. Thank you so much, guys. Love you guys. Bye-bye.